20 years ago, the discovery of oil and gas reserves catapulted Equatorial Guinea to being one of the third largest suppliers of this resource and one of the fastest growing economic regions in sub-Saharan Africa. Fast forward to 2015, where the significant decline in commodity prices and oil have forced the country to realign its economic strategy in pursuit of sustainable economic growth. Of the sectors which have benefited are the likes of infrastructure, like the Sipopo Conference Center, where we've gathered here today to witness the inauguration of President Theodore Obiang Nguema. Hello and welcome to the CNBC Africa special. I'm Gugulethu Cele. Join me on a journey where we take a look at the economic opportunities in Equatorial Guinea. The people of Equatorial Guinea celebrated the inauguration of President Theodore Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, who came into power in 1979. The president was voted into power to serve another 7-year term in office. This renewal is said to have been an indication of the people voicing their trust in him in the recent presidential elections. The statesman has been known to be vocal about African countries being able to protect and invest their currencies in the transformation of local economies in order to achieve the greatest possible self-sufficiency. Over the years, the president has aimed at achieving this. His government has invested heavily in the development of the country, utilizing funds generated by oil and gas revenues since its discovery in 1995. But with the global economic slowdown, as well as the major slump in commodity prices, Equatorial Guinea is faced with the task of having to diversify its revenue streams in order to revive its economy. President Nguema, along with his cabinet, have been at the forefront of creating policies that aim to enable sustained economic growth. Focus has been placed on infrastructure and agricultural development. Between 2011 and 2016, the capital city of the country, Malabo, has undergone major infrastructural transformation. Interestingly though, the agricultural sector has major catching up to do, as opportunity does exist. Over 62% of the land area is covered by forests, which means that there's vast amounts for fertile land on which to harvest from. But whilst this is the case, only 10% of agricultural land is cultivated.
As an oil and gas dependent country, a producer and dependent country, the current situation is, the best way to describe it is a horror. It's the worst case scenario that what any ministry would like. First, because of the rapid decline of the price. Secondly, on the readjustment of the budgets. And we do have, like any other producer countries, have suffered the same situation. We could try to tell you that, no, we are managing, but any oil producing country have gone through the same situation. The only thing we have to say is we need to be able to survive to it, because sometimes one of the best way we describe it is a terrible rain. It's raining, moving from everywhere, so even if you have the umbrella, it's not gonna do anything. So the key thing is that you are confident that it will stop. The sun will come and then it will grow again. So you just need to learn from that experience. Equatorial Guinea has been blessed by the oil and gas resource. We have also used the majority of our resources on the development of our country, mainly on infrastructure. We are one of the countries who have heavily invested for many years in infrastructure. One arriving in our country will always get very amazed on how much we have invested in road, electricity, ports, airports, the key infrastructure. But also we have heavily invested in human resources. And at the same time, it have come in a moment very critical, because we have this 2020 development plan. And then we are coming to the last stage. And our aim was to be even more aggressive. But because of the oil price, we have actually slowed down a little bit. Now, our approach is that we need to focus on promoting key sectors. One is the tourists. Second one is the industries and industrialization. And the third one is agriculture. Those is the overall government initiative to make sure that the next time that we have this slump, it does not hurt us the same way that they have done. Regarding my portfolio, I cannot think about agriculture, tourism, because that's not my responsibility. There's a minister in charge of that. I have to focus on what to do to make sure that in the future, both the human resources, both the companies, especially local companies, can survive better this situation. One of them is investing and focusing on local content. And local content is not just making sure that people have jobs, making sure that we have gardener, driver. It's to make sure that those local companies actually have the tools to survive, not only in Equatorial Guinea, but in any other country. In a way that when the IOC come to the country, they don't have to rely on companies coming from Singapore, Holland, Spain, the rest. They can actually rely on companies working here. Because clearly, one of the industries that we believe that are going to be our key focus are going to be the gas industry and petrochemics. Those sectors have been mainly because of the different gas discovery that we have been doing. The other key reason is because gas is becoming a very important commodity for utilization in African countries, because you can use the gas more cheaply for electricity, you can use it for petrochemics to do ammoniaco, urea, but at the same time, gas can give you more utility that we can use in our countries, in our countries or in our continent. Before, we used to depend mainly on the oil. We used to just burn all the gas. We have seen our neighbors in Nigeria have done it for a long time, also in Gabon. But what we did is when we started oil and gas industry, we decided we needed to use the gas. So with that gas, we have used it for a methanol plant. We have used it for our electricity. And now we have an ambitious plan to do a petrochemic project to build an ammoniaco and urea plant.
Honorable Minister, if I can come in there for a moment, just to understand how you're hoping to make sure that you manage your margins so that you don't necessarily produce at high costs and again we get hurt when it comes to falling commodity prices. How are you hoping to get this strategy implemented in a defensive manner?
Well, it's a I'll call it a joint activity or work that we will do not only with my ministry, with the other ministry, because we had been responsible of providing 90% of the revenue of this country. So what we need to do is that other parties, other ministries can actually contribute, so that dependency is not just us. And one of my role is to diversify in my sector. Now, but we also can indirectly support other industries.
What about your economic heart when it comes to the African continent? What message do you want to leave African investors with as to why they need to come to Equatorial Guinea?
Well, the key thing is we need to be able to see, and the best example is Mauritius and Seychelles. When we want to go on vacation, we have even the Europeans fly from Dubai to Mauritius. It's clearly a very great opportunity that is benefit Africans. Now, one will ask, so what's Equatorial Guinea going to benefit to us? From Nigeria, I always speak, and they like me a lot in Nigeria. I go there all the time. And of course, we're going to work that to improve, is that they see us the same way that China see Hong Kong and Malaysia to Singapore. We are not competitive, but we do some services that for key reasons they have not been able to do it, but they see as opportunity to do it. The same thing I spoke when I usually go to South Africa, and I speak with a lot of the South African investors, and I say, listen, if you don't travel, you don't come here, you don't see the opportunity, because Equatorial Guinea have one key resource. It's not oil, it's not gas, it's the geographical location.
Stay with us. When we come back from the break, we delve into sector-specific investment opportunities in Equatorial Guinea. Welcome back. You're still watching the CNBC Africa special highlighting economic opportunities in Equatorial Guinea. Horizon 2020 is earmarked as the economy's blueprint to financial success, focused on stringent investment into infrastructure, agriculture, services, and telecommunications. In this half of the conversation, we take a look at the success so far in the implementation of the strategy.
All in all, that was the plan Horizonte 2020, what it still is, And in the first stage of this plan, taking into account the 4 big keys to change identified in the plan, which were to build modern infrastructure in the country, develop them in a way, let's say accelerated, having economic and social infrastructures to support the diversification of the economy and the human development on one hand. On the other hand, the goal was to improve the country's governability, prepare it for the scenario where the public sector, the government, was going to retract, the economic factors were going to emerge. The other goal was to massively invest in human capital, in people, and the other goal was also to improve social indicators. So within the promotion of the Plan Horizonte 2020, from 2008 to 2012, the government focused on the infrastructure sector, how to create the bases, the infrastructural bases to allow the private sector to have inputs they need, and the social indicators, education, health, can have the necessary infrastructures.
Like many other African states, Equatorial Guinea is determined to address social and economic inequalities. As a blueprint, the country has made use of its Horizon 2020 policy to ensure that they are on the right track to achieve economic objectives. Minister of Economy, Planning and Public Investments, Yokario Bakale Angwe, says that under the leadership of the President, their 2020 goal of economic transformation will be accomplished.
Every time we need to analyze the economy of Equatorial Guinea, since it's an economy that is highly dependent on natural resources, especially oil, we need to start, as you just did, by analyzing the global economy, because it's the demand of those natural resources that are feeding our accounts. So in a moment in which the demand for our natural resources has been decreasing globally, of course that presents us with a critical situation for our national economy. Our exports are 95% based on natural resources, oil, and the prices of oil, as you see in the international market, has been, I would say, terribly decreasing in the last 2 years. So that has affected our national budget, that has affected some of the investment that the government wanted to make in the short term and long term, and that have also affected the perspective of growth that we had. So it's a huge impact on our national economy. Just the fact that internationally the situation is not pretty.
And the result was that at an infrastructure level, the country had suffered an evident transformation. When I speak about infrastructure, let's say economic, let's say the electricity, which also has a social component. The energy production capacity of the country had multiplied by about 4.6. At a logistics level, which is what makes what a country needs to assure the supply chain of all sectors. More ports and airports had been built. The roads Equatorial Guinea already had and has the biggest density per capita as paved roads in Africa.
And we know that the outcome has resulted in Equatorial Guinea currently being in recession, and I understand the plan Horizon 2020 has been implemented in such a manner to diversify the economy,
yes,
and also make it defensive to some of these shocks on the global market environment. Talk to us about Horizon 2020 and how it's been implemented so far and the kind of economic sustainability that it's going to provide for this economy.
Well, Horizon 2020 is in 2007, we had a national conference, an economic conference, in which we invited in international institutions, financial institutions. We invited almost everyone that wanted to attend to help us design a national development plan and to advise us on how best to use the surpluses that we were getting at the moment on our oil production. And we came out with a great vision and a strategy. The vision was to first move away from the dependency on oil by diversifying the economy into key sectors as agriculture, fishery, financial services, tourism, and mining. Mm-hmm. And the second objective was also to try to create a growth that can be sustained over generations. Because as any other state, the final objective, the final goal is always to improve the well-being of the population. And we can have growth during 5 years, and then the next generations would come and pay the bill, it wouldn't be a great strategy, it wouldn't be a good plan. So those were the two goals. First, diversify, move away from the dependency on oil, and diversify the economy in order to have sustainable growth, to have sustainable social and economic condition for the population. But we realized in 2007, we realized that if you had you been in Equatorial Guinea 15 years ago, just 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago, this was a different place. We did not have the basic infrastructure, which means roads, airports, ports, running water, electricity. So we realized, how come we're going to diversify the economy? How are we going to have agriculture if we don't have the logistic infrastructure? How come we can industrialize the country if we don't have energy? So we say in the first phase, what we're going to do is to invest heavily in public infrastructure. And that's what we did from 2008 until 2013. So the government invested heavily in public infrastructure. So now we have 87% of our roads paved nationally. And we have built 2 major ports, one in Malabo, another one in Bata, that can actually serve as a regional hub.
One area of importance has been developing the country's infrastructure. The government has dedicated funds to the urbanization of the country's cities to extend the ease of doing business. And while Equatorial Guinea has utilized its oil revenues to develop various sectors within its economy, the country has realized the importance of partnerships with other regions to secure sustainable economic growth, even in the global slowdown. One partnership that has contributed to Equatorial Guinea's continued growth in infrastructure is China. Minister of Public Works and Infrastructures, Juan Nko Mbula, elaborates on this.
The biggest acceptance of our president is that Equatorial Guinea is a self-sufficient country. And in order to be self-sufficient, we need to have all the infrastructure that I'm mentioning. Because tomorrow, or when the time may come, if we have skilled people, we will have all necessary infrastructure to meet everything that the country needs. We won't need to depend on any other country. The time where the African countries needed to depend on other countries has already passed. So our president wants us to be self-sufficient. Another important program for public health executed in the whole territory of Equatorial Guinea in all districts is the Water Reference Program and the Sewage Program. We have important projects in the whole country to provide every place with drinking water, to provide them with sanitation. What is this going to do? This is going to let our young people and allow us to live with a healthy state. These are the most important projects executed in Equatorial Guinea with views to 2020. But if you let me speak, there are still more projects. We know that we have not compiled 100% with health. In fact, in this moment, sanitary infrastructure is being built. We also know that we have not compiled 100% in education, and work is being done here too. There are other projects that we have to undertake in order to reach emergence in 2020, which are the projects related to the diversification of the economy, the projects related with the industrialization of the country and other investments that we will need to make so everything regarding to the diversification of the economy and agriculture, farming, fishing, and everything else can be successfully executed. Those are the projects that I may say that are pending in order to reach emergence in 2020.
Minister, China has played a critical role with regard to the infrastructural developments we've seen in Equatorial Guinea. How important is this partnership? And paint a picture for us as to how much they've invested in the country so far and how much they're looking to invest going forward.
China and Equatorial Guinea have had diplomatic relations for many, many years. And China has always proved to be a good partner for Equatorial Guinea. That has made us what we are today.
realizar las infraestructuras que hemos hecho.
We receive a great support from China to build the infrastructure we have made.
Ha recibido de China aproximadamente unos $500 millones.
The government of Equatorial Guinea until now has received from China about $500 million for the projects which we have executed.
Son proyectos que se van a son créditos que se van a devolver.
There are a lot of projects. All these projects are obviously not set for the short term, but rather for the long term. Everything you see in Equatorial Guinea is a result of the partnership we have had with China, which has supported us in some of the projects and has donated and has, given a loan of about 500 million. But the relationship with China, I must say it again, is not a new relationship. It has been built throughout the years. China has contributed at some time and is still contributing to our development because there's a lot of young people from Equatorial Guinea who study in Chinese universities with scholarships financed by China, not by Equatorial Guinea.
If we do take a look at Horizon 2020, with just a few more years to go, what are the future plans regarding infrastructure development for the country overall?
It is true that the infrastructural development in Equatorial Guinea is proportionate to each district because Malabo is the capital city of the nation, and here is where the government and most of the population is. The city of Bata is the most populated city, but is the capital of the nation. So more has been invested in Malabo than in other parts. But that does not mean that in other cities of Equatorial Guinea there is no development. The same development you can see in Malabo is the same that exists in the whole national territory. It is proportional to each place. In the city of Bata, we are also having big avenues. We have built social housing, we have built airports, we have built ports. What I want to tell you with this is that the development is the same in the whole national territory. The development is proportional to the district.
With the deadline for Horizon 2020 fast approaching, it remains to be seen how effectively these policies can be implemented to ensure sustainable economic growth for Equatorial Guinea. One thing, though, that is constant is that this economy remains open for business and looks to actively participate in being an economic contributor to the West and Central African region. From myself, Gugule Tucele, and the team coming to you from Malabo, it's hasta luego.